out? For what is it, 2 weeks now they've been hyping this? You know, I hyped that I had Donald Trump's tax returns, and then I clarified that I actually had 2 pages of Donald Trump's tax returns for 1 hour before I actually released 2 pages of what actually were Donald Trump's tax returns. And for a year now, people have been telling me that was unconscionable hype about Donald Trump's tax returns. But you know what? At least those actually were Donald Trump's tax returns, even if they were boring in the end. Sorry. This was 2 weeks of this memo is going to end everything. This memo, have you heard about the memo? Hashtag release the memo. This memo will make Donald Trump innocent. This memo will put Robert Mueller in jail. It'll abolish the FBI. The Justice Department will have to rename itself the Donald J. Trump and Family Private Security Task Force. I mean, I can't believe this is it. I don't really believe in the whole cable news wars idea. I know people who work across the street at the Fox News Channel. I've got friends who work there. I think we're all doing our own thing in our own way, best we can. I wish everybody the best, but oh my God, right? They have been hyping and hyping and huffing and puffing and working their audience up into a frenzy for 2 solid weeks. They have literally built a right-wing public movement that this memo must be released because this memo will fix the Trump presidency. It will fix the Russia scandal for President Trump. It will make the whole thing go away. And apparently, despite all of that, apparently they either didn't know or they didn't notice that this thing they have been clamoring for and hyping for 2 solid weeks, that they have built up this frenzy around, it actually disproves their whole point. I mean, at some point in the past year, they fixed on this strategy, that dossier that BuzzFeed published right after the election, January 2016. Republicans and conservative media focused on that idea, fixated on the idea that maybe that dossier was something they could use to try to undercut the whole idea that there should have ever been a Russia investigation in the first place. Right? They promised the Fox News audience, they promised the country, they talked a big portion of the normal media into believing that they were about to shake the earth. They were about to prove that the whole basis of the Russia investigation was that dossier. They never even planned to come up with a good argument against the content of the dossier. They didn't think they would have to. It was, step 1, say the dossier is bad. Step 2, say the whole Russia investigation is based on the dossier. Step 3 was today. Release the memo that proves step 2. That proves that the dossier was the basis for the whole Russia investigation. And then, boom, you don't need a step 4 because game's over. Trump's president for life and being a Democrat is illegal. And if you don't support Donald Trump, by definition, you're a Democrat and you're illegal. Goodbye. I mean, today was the big reveal, right? Today was step 3. The memo that proves the whole Russia investigation is based on the dossier. And then they released this memo, which says in its final paragraph, sort of distractedly while trying to make another point about specific FBI agents being bad people who have affairs. They let slip in the last paragraph of the dossier, last paragraph of the memo, that, oh, by the way, the dossier didn't actually lead to the Russia investigation. The FBI was looking at a Trump campaign guy for his contacts with the Russians. That guy, George Papadopoulos, did actually end up pleading guilty to the FBI about lying about his contacts with the Russians. The Papadopoulos thing is what started the investigation, right? They released this memo to prove that the dossier started everything. The memo says the dossier didn't actually start anything. At which point, everybody in America goes, everybody else in America, I guess, goes, right, that's what we've been saying. But what happens now to all the hype over this thing at Fox News over the past couple of weeks? I mean, this was a lot of hype. What happens to the plan by the White House where the president was apparently led to release this thing? Not because he knew what was in it, not because he had even bothered to read it himself, but because he was watching Fox News segments about it. And those Fox News segments were convincing him that this memo was the magic ticket that was going to be his get-out-of-jail-free card. What happens to the president's argument that this memo is all the justification that he needs to start removing the deputy attorney general or maybe even the FBI director or everybody else who might conceivably give him some path towards stopping the Mueller investigation? Fox News apparently convinced the president that this memo is all he would need to be able to fire Rod Rosenstein, to be able to get rid of the Mueller investigation. by one report, to get Jeff Sessions to indict Robert Mueller. Washington Post reported this morning that the president was left alone with the memo for several hours so he could read it. The memo is only 3.5 pages long, and the font is not that small. And I know the president famously does not enjoy lots of reading, but I mean, several hours to read 3.5 pages, there's no reason to assume he had adequate time to get through all 3.5 pages in several hours. I mean, maybe he didn't get to the end, to the really bad part at the end. So after all of the hype, after all of the excitement, after all of the absolute fixation on this big reveal, this big revelatory moment today, I will admit to being shocked that this is what they released. It was just kind of like a sad trombone. We only bring that out for very special occasions. But we did, nevertheless, get a landmark moment in American history with this today. We did get a public release of classified information, pushed by House Republicans and okayed by the President of the United States, apparently because he thought this was going to be good for him politically, because Fox News told him it would be. FISA warrants are classified. The whole FISA court process is a classified process. We're not supposed to get any public information about the FISA court or FISA warrants. Public confirmation of specific warrants, confirmation of specific targets of FISA warrants. We're not supposed to get that. But in this case, now we've got that. And so now we know, thanks to this memo, that on October 21st, 2016, a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act FISA warrant was approved to start surveillance on Trump campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page.
Don't forget to click subscribe. It's almost as satisfying as skip ad.